Well, let me get rid of this before I trip over it. All right. Okay, perfect. Can y'all hear me in the back? Yes, perfect. So apparently Google is banned on the Wi-Fi, so I had to like PDF out my slides, so way less cool than it was, but that's all right. If you don't know this yet, many of you know this, but I have cows and other farm animals. Have any of y'all ever dove into something too quickly? Just raise of hands. Yeah, like pretty much literally every single one of us, I think. You guys want to hear the story of this cow? Because it's pretty entertaining. Okay, so we moved to Waco, Texas like 4 years ago. We buy our farm like 2 years ago. And the thing that I wanted the most was a mini cow. No particular reason why. I just thought they were so stinking cute. Like cow noses are just so adorable. So I really wanted a mini cow. So you can see this really super, super adorable mini cow in this picture, hiding under the trees. I got my first mini cow and I wasn't really prepped for it. I didn't check fences. I didn't really know actually all the feed that they were supposed to eat. I was like, oh, hay, grass, like it's fine, right? They're cows. Just didn't do all the research. So when this cow, I'm laughing because y'all, it was so funny. I wish I have a video. So when this cow came to our house, cows, if you don't know this, will actually go around and check the perimeter of the fence because they want to know that if they can get out, they could get out. So they like test your fence. Obviously, I've told you twice now things about fences, so you probably know where this is going. My entire house was fully fenced because they had cattle there before. Not necessarily the way you'd want because the cows could get up by the house, but it was like, it's fine. It's all fenced. The cows can stay in. It'll be fine. So this cow gets dropped off. Her name is Sparkplug, and she is a spitfire. So what does she do? She goes to the back part of our pasture. We had no idea. And there's a tiny, tiny hole in the fence. Tiny hole, right? Small. I don't know how this cow, which mind you is about 500 pounds, gets through a hole like maybe this big, right? So we don't realize this and we're looking and all of a sudden we're like, is that Sparkplug over in the other pasture? Literally, she'd been there like an hour tops. I'm like, oh, the cow's out, right? So then we're like, okay, we can do this. Mind you, again, we know nothing about cows. We don't know how to handle them. We don't really know how to like lead them, put them on any type of a rope, right? They're sort of like free-spirited animals. So we're trying to get this cow. I have a 2-year-old toddler. So I'm in the house with my toddler and my husband's out trying to get the cow. So I send my oldest teenager out there, and meanwhile, they're literally chasing this cow through a pasture. If you've ever tried to catch an animal, like all animals are like, what? You're trying to catch me? I'm gone. And she was gone. So they finally get a lead rope on her. They like lasso this, which mind you, this was a whole entertaining thing too, because we don't know how to lasso. So they're like trying to lasso and catch this cow, right? We eventually get a halter type of lead rope adjustable thing on the cow. Oh my gosh, y'all, it was so funny. So I'm laughing because they get it on there, right? And my husband has a hold of this rope and the cow decides to run. Now let me apply another layer of entertaining bit to this. It's downpouring rain, like downpouring rain. So my husband and my teenager out there trying to catch a cow. My husband refuses to let go of the lead rope because all the work has been done, right? We have the rope on the cow. The rope is in my hand. Why would I even think about letting go, right? Bad idea. The cow takes him all the way through the pasture, like literally dragging him through the pasture. And meanwhile, he continues to not let go. So we hadn't lived at our house very long, maybe 2 months tops. Our neighbor comes out and he's like, what are y'all doing? It's like, well, we're trying to catch a cow. Don't know what happened here. He comes over, right? They get the cow. They kind of get it at least to a point where like it's near him. He can help. He grabs the rope. He takes the cow's tail, lifts it up. So it's like kind of sticking up. Like you think a cow tail going down. It's like sort of curved up. The freaking cow does whatever he wants it to do because he lifts up its tail. I'm like, are you kidding me? He makes it look like easy magic. He navigates the cow back. We get her back into the fence. We patch the hole. All is good again, right? How many of you have felt that level of like, what the hell was I thinking? Yeah, many of you. We do this. And honestly, whoa, that is not what I wanted. We do this as developers. This is really throwing me off from slides. We jump into the same stuff. How many of you have been like, I have a problem, I can't solve it, I'm going to build my solution? Not enough of you have your hands up. Not enough of you. Guessing it's almost all of you. Because that's what we do as developers. We solve problems and we want to build stuff. So really super quickly, it doesn't really matter who I am. I talk about cows and it's entertaining, so that's cool. But I am Tessa Kriesel. I am now a CEO, which is pretty exciting. Thank you. I have been doing DevRel leadership for over 10 years. I have been a software engineer for, I don't know, since like 2007, 2008, so a long time, longer than I want to admit. And I love it. I love to hang out with nerds, but also a nerd myself, by the way, so it's not offensive. But I also came from business. I came from hospitality management. I came from understanding how business operates and understanding how to build a successful business, how to drive marketing campaigns, how to do some of that stuff, and realized I was like, meh, this is cool, but like, it's not curing what I want to do. And so I learned how to code. And so today I take all those technical chops and all those management and marketing skills that I have, and I bring them all together and I help dev tools go to market essentially. And so when I say dev tools, it's really sort of anything that you can think about as a developer that you use in your day-to-day to do your job. That's usually considered a dev tool. All right, so on, sweet Lord, what is going on with that? Okay, so this is us, right? I have something I want to build. As developers, we see a problem that needs to be fixed, right? And so we're like, let's build a solution. And honestly, I think we've seen this in many sessions. Dennis actually presented things he built, valuable things that he built, right? But all of us have built a variety of different things. And oftentimes when we do something, right, it's in like a matter of hours. How many of y'all have like picked something up and been like, I have to build this, and you're done in hours and you're just barreled right through it? Many of you, right? That's what we do. We build stuff. But sometimes we build stuff and we're like, I think other devs need this. And we don't realize that we might be building something, we launch something, those are cricket icons, if that's not clear, by the way. And then we're like, why does nobody want this? Has that happened to anybody in here? Legit has happened to me 100 times, I swear. And it's because we are developers. I say, let's blame our engineering mindsets, right? Because we love solving problems, but we focus on how to build it, we optimize for the best solution, and then we think that others think exactly like us. Relatable? Yes. So in order for us to start to actually think about building something that can effectively be useful for other developers, or maybe we're like, hey, I actually want to build a business. I want to build a product. I want to build a course. I need to market a course. I want to teach someone something. In all of these different capacities, we still have to understand who needs that and why do they need it. And so for us to take and make that shift and turn into business people, we have to break that pattern, right? We have to think differently. We like to say, oh, I built this cool thing. I literally just talked to a dev today, not going to name names, in the room, and he's like, I didn't like the current solution, so I did it better, right? We tend to do that. But the shift that we need to make as we think about this is, instead of, I have a cool way to solve this, we need to think, is this solving a real problem that other developers have, right? I can build this better. Who said that? Okay, y'all are lying, because like I've said that 100 times. I can do this better. But not do enough developers actually need that solution, right? And I think that's what we really get caught up in, is that we may have a pain point. We think that we can't find a solution. We try to build out something, but maybe we're sort of like one of 20 that have that issue, right? Because someone else has a different workaround or a different way that they do it. Look at this solution I built. So many people have said that. So many. Will this fit into other developers' workflow? I literally cannot emphasize that one enough. As devs, how frequently do you want to adjust and change your day-to-day repetition? Never? Yeah. So that's the root problem, right? Is that when you build something and you want developers to embrace it or begin to use it, it has to fit perfectly into their pre-existing workflow. You have to find that nice little sweet spot where they're like, ugh, this is annoying. And then make sure that however you bring that in, that you're integrated well and that it's perfectly aligned in that right little spot where it needs to be. And did you talk to developers outside of your circle? How many people have been through that where they're like, I talked to all of my friends and they thought it was so cool. They said they would use it. All of us. So instead, we have to find the real problems. And we have real problems. We like experience them every day, right? There's constantly something that can be fixed or adjusted. But there's also constantly new solutions that are coming out. So when you think about that, it's really more about how can you actually solve that developer pain in a way that is uniquely different than everyone else. These next few slides are kind of heavy, so I'm going to leave them up for a little bit so you can absorb them. But these slides really walk you through like understanding how to recognize when a new tool or a new solution is actually necessary. So patterns that indicate a developer pain, multiple workarounds being shared and upvoted. Who does this? Who like builds workarounds or go finds workarounds? Yes, exactly, right? We're constantly sharing little snippets. How do we do something? How do we get past this? How do we just patch an issue? Same issue being discussed across different communities. Have you ever seen developers talking about a pain point they're just like so freaking annoyed with in multiple places? Yes, right? That's a sign. That is a good sign. If someone is also patching that together or using a workaround. Developers willing to use complex or ugly solutions. I love that one. How many of us have used really ugly solutions or tools because it was the only option that we had? All right. Does anyone have any of those right now that they're using, like an ugly tool that's, what'd you say? What is it? I love that. Every time that we hear about one of those situations, that's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity for us to go and validate. Are we seeing these other patterns? I think it's on my next slide, but essentially, like as you're looking at this, right, issues that can affect workflow versus minor inconveniences. Minor inconveniences, we're like, great, we'll go grab a snippet, we'll patch it, it's fine, I don't really have to worry about this again. But if it's an issue every single day and it is a thorn in their side, that's what you're looking for. So what makes that problem worth solving? Very similar to sort of the flip of that, right? What's the frequency? Is it coming up often? Is that thorn in their side constantly? Like, is it driving them crazy? Impact. Does it block their work versus just a minor annoyance, right? I can deal with minor annoyances. I'll just kind of patch them over. But if it's constant or if it's something that's blocking me, you can bet your butt I'm going to be so annoyed, you know? So that's a trigger. Current solutions are clearly inadequate, right? We know that that's very clear and happens. And people are actively searching for alternatives. I had a client come in and they're actually a feature flag client and they asked for the recording. So if you're watching, hello. Or they asked about the live stream. So they have a feature flag product, right? We all know there are a lot of different ways to do feature flags. Like I can kind of see it on the looks in your face. You're like, oh, another feature flag product. But here's the thing. It is still, it's a pain point because the current feature flag product that everyone loves has just a very interesting pricing model currently. I love when people laugh because they know exactly what I'm talking about. And so in this current pricing model, right, it's people are actively searching for alternatives because I'm not even going to keep going, but y'all get it, right? The last thing, how many of y'all have seen somebody be hired or brought into your team to literally just solve a pain point? Full-time job, full-time engineer, right? It happens frequently. Honestly, in enterprise, this is like the go-to because they're like, well, there's procurement and security and blah, 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 like all the things. Can we just bring someone in who can solve this? And that is the sweet spot. If you know that a company is bringing in a full-time employee to try to solve a pain point, there is something there. because that's an investment. That's a big decision. And that pain point is severe enough that they went through the job description part, the hiring manager part, the recruiting part. It's obviously something that is very clear that needs to be solved. Okay, so signs that you're onto something. These are pretty obvious based on the patterns and things that we've been talking about. But I think these signs that you're onto something, if you're building something and you're like, oh, this is like hitting all the right things, screenshot this or take a picture. I do have a QR code for the slides here pretty soon. But this is the cues that you are on to something, right? Are developers sharing their own similar pain point unprompted? So if you're out in the community and you're like, oh, you're sort of like tertiary talking about a problem or a similar solution, and they're like, oh my gosh, let me tell you about this pain. And it's the same thing that you're trying to address, right? And it's unprompted. They're just eager to tell you about it. Has that actually happened in the last 2 days? Because honestly, I feel like that's probably happened. Has anyone been like, yes, right? So it's like, that's a trigger to understand, hey, there might be something here. Easy to find people to interview about the problem. If they are eager to give you their time because you're like, hey, I think I have a solution for feature flag overpricing, whatever, right? I think I have a solution. And if they're eager to talk to you, then it's like, yes, that is one trigger towards your direction of like, I might be onto something here. Evidence of teams building internal tools while also investing in resources, right? So hiring people, etc. Okay, so where to look? This is always the question, right? And what's really funny is that developers, when they come to me, or technical founders, I should say, and I'm working with them, they're like, yeah, but where do I go find them? And I'm like, where do you hang out every day? We all sort of forget, right? As developers, we go and we are in our flow, and we go ask questions, we're engaging in a community, we're trying to understand things. But then when we flip and we're like, oh, we've got a product and I've got a market and I got to think about marketing, we're like, oh, but where are these people at? They're in the same places you're hanging out already. Unless your target audience isn't you, then you might have some additional channels. But the concepts are the same, right? We're hanging out on GitHub, we're in Reddit, we're in private Slack or Discord communities, we're in different forums, we're at conferences, right? We are here all together. This is a distribution channel. So this is a place that you could go and speak to these developers. One of the other things I have up here, and it's not really aware, but the competitor analysis beyond features is like really, really, really key to aware in terms of how do you validate and understand the audience at which you're actually going after. And so doing a competitive analysis is really, really important. I was actually just chatting with someone before I came in here because he couldn't come to my session, and he's like, hey, I have a couple questions quick. And that's what we were talking about, right? Is that we were essentially talking about how do we understand who that user is that wants your solution and where do they spend time? That's literally all developer marketing is. Who needs your product? Who has that thorn in their side every single day? Who's willing to integrate something new into their day-to-day workflow? Which, by the way, I hope that clicks because that's a major challenge. To integrate something into a developer day-to-day workflow is a big challenge for developers to do. Y'all told me that you don't really do that, right? So it has to be so painful for them that they are willing to change their workflow. Okay, so what's next? Let's say that any one of us are like, I want to build a thing. I already have a thing. I think I'm going to build this thing. I want to go do something else. What do you do next? Avoid these common traps. So building without evidence. How many of you, please raise your hand if this is applicable, because this applies to me, have built something with literally zero evidence besides my own single pane? Yeah, like so many times, right? We're smart people. We know better. Only talking to our friends. How many of you have only talked to your friends and been like, they're all like, yes, I would use it. I would use it. And then you release it and nobody, right? You're like, what happened to my friends? Where are you people? Focusing on features over problems. Literally, this is every single developer. Every time I'm working with a client, we have to take a step back and I'm like, that's great. Those are great features. What problems are you solving? Because anytime when I'm working with clients and we're talking about distribution or outreach or trying to gain the awareness or attention of developers, I'm always like, what problem are you solving and what are the keywords around that? So one of my clients, and I'm actually going to say it out loud because y'all should check it out because they're really awesome. ArcJet is what it's called, so arcjet.com. So they are a security as code platform. Love that you're nodding your head. The founder is really awesome on top of it. But their pain point, right, is high Vercel bills or high platform bills, because you're getting bots, you're getting unauthenticated traffic. Maybe you've got an AI tool that's in there and someone's just coming in there and trying to scrape everything that it can. Well, that type of a tool, right, comes in and it actually is a security platform that essentially has all the, I'm not going to dig into it, right, but it essentially deflects a lot of that. So as we are engaging, that actual conversation is like high Vercel bills or bot traffic or whatever that might look like, right? Whatever that sort of pain is around that. And so that's what we're looking for. We want to understand what are those pains. So asking, would you use this as one of the traps? The asking, would you use it, is the worst question ever, because you're on a call with someone and the pressure is there and they're like, would you use this? And I'm going to be like, well, of course I'd use it. I don't want you to feel bad. I'm not necessarily going to lie, but I'm also going to be like, sure, I'll try it. I'll use it. That's not the question you want to ask. You want to know if they've got a big enough thorn in their side that they are willing to pay for a solution. Are you willing to pay for a solution? If your product is free, beautiful. I don't know how, all the things, right? But if it is free, it's more around, would you be willing to adopt this tool? Will you change your developer workflow to try this tool, which is the hard part? All right, I only have a few minutes. Geez, this mouse, I tell you what. Okay, only got a few minutes left, so I'm going to jump to this. Again, this one's really heavy, but these are some tools for market research and some communities for feedback. SimilarWeb, GitHub Trends, Stack Overflow Insights, Crunchbase. There's a lot of other tools. Now that web scraping is a thing, this is a lot easier to do in terms of understanding who are your competitors, what are those market opportunities, what are developers talking about and those pain points, and how can you find the right audience for the solution that you have. Communities, I mean, we're all pretty knowledgeable on the developer communities, right? We all spending time in most of these communities. Cool. Okay, so quick next steps. Pick one problem you're excited about. One problem. And this literally should take you like an hour. So I wrote this in a way that if you wanted to nerd out this afternoon, that you could. Pick one problem that you're excited about. Spend an hour searching for pain signals. If you are here and you actually want to do this, talk to developers. Ask them about their pains as it relates to whatever it is that you are excited about trying to solve. Document patterns that you find, because what you're looking for are the trends. You can't take one really good conversation where you got to talk about cows and your dogs and everything you love and it felt so great and be like, that's it. That's it. That conversation was so good. That's it. No, you're looking for trends. You need to talk to as many developers as you can. You're looking for signs of, are you on to something, which is why I told you to take a screenshot or a picture earlier. We have, 2 more minutes maybe at this point? Perfect. Here's a QR code for you to download the slides. This is over on Google Slides. I will leave this up for a little bit because the next 3 slides are fairly heavy, but it is my validation framework. And so I wanted y'all to have that if it was something that you want. And then I'll just walk through it super quickly. Give like 30 seconds. People snap the last thing. Okay, awesome. I want to leave time for 1 or 2 questions, so I'll just do this really quickly. This framework will walk you through what to do, right? So the first part is, what problem do you want to solve? Do your research. The third part is going to be share your solution authentically. Don't roll into a developer community and be like, look at me and my tool. But talk about your solution. I think that there needs to be a new solution here. Here's what I'm proposing. Here's what I'm starting to build. What do you think? What are your pain points? Actually go out and solicit this both beyond this event, but out into your normal developer communities. Interview 10 to 20 developers. If you are still getting new insights from those 10 to 20 developers, keep going. Interview more. You want to keep interviewing until you are no longer learning something new. And those are the questions you should ask in your interview questions. And then last piece of this, your validation proof. You have validated a developer need if you see these 4 bullet points. You find a consistent pain pattern, your developers volunteer specific use cases, you're talking to them and they're like, I could use this for A, right? Or I could use this for B. They're actively seeking better solutions. So that's where that question comes into play. Are you willing to change your workflow to bring in a new solution? Because that's pivotal. And current workarounds and what they're costing them, right? What are they doing today to solve that problem? How much is it costing them? How much time is it taking them? Can you reduce both, right? Because at the end of the day, does anyone know what developers want to do most? Oh, yes, play video games. Yes, save time. We want to save time, right? I think, do all of us agree? Like that's the consensus is, of course we want to save time. We want to do things faster, more efficient. We want to be better. And we don't want to have to touch something again if we've already touched it. Yeah, I mean, making money's good. I agree. Okay, wow, I shouldn't touch that. Okay, bringing it back to the QR code. I think we have like a minute, maybe, not even a minute. Anyone have any questions they want to ask? Yeah. I don't think I can fully hear you. I was trying to parse it together, but I didn't get it all. So you're saying like you're worried if you go out there to talk to people that they'll steal your idea. Is that what you're thinking? Okay. I've had this. I literally had this for like 3 or 4 years because I really wanted to build this like really cool tool where developers could come and hang out and they could talk about all the products that they love. And then Product Hunt came out. Right? So someone did build it. But then at the end of the day, that wasn't the approach or the objective I was trying to go after. So I think when we think about these things, like we are so scared of competitors. We're so scared that someone else will win. But at the same time, like how many developers are there, right? There's like millions of us. So even if there is some fear that someone's going to take it, like the reason that you should be building something is because you know that space really, really well. And so you should confidently go into that knowing, you know what, I'm an expert in this space. I'm either an expert because I've dealt with this pain point so much that I know exactly why it's a pain, or that you're an expert because you are in that ecosystem, you are in that sort of pain, you're in that, you understand it, right? I think if you're building something that you have never worked with before and you've never built before, that can be scary. But I don't think that when you look at competition, it's not bad because competition is going to do one thing and you can do a different thing. And so when I work with my clients, one of the things I focus on doing is finding their market opportunity. How can you, even if you're the 7th or 8th or 9th or 10th feature flag platform, how are you different? How do you niche into a different audience, a different pain point, a different stack? Right? Like one of my clients that I was working with, they have a reproducibility tool, essentially. Everything is reproducible, puts it into a Docker container. You take that Docker container, you bring it to wherever you want, right? So reproducibility. We don't always need reproducibility. Does anyone actually need that in their day-to-day where they're like constant? Right, it's not a common need. And so I'm like, I need to figure out their market opportunities. ML ops on premise, beautiful opportunity. Robotics, beautiful opportunity, which by the way, digging into robotics, super freaking cool. If you have any other questions, I will be around for a little bit. Do we have time? We can chat after. I am Tessa K22 pretty much everywhere, and builtfor.dev is my platform. If you're into what I'm doing, you've got questions, I have a developer hub. If you scroll to the bottom of my really crappy website, which I know it should be better, it's hard, right? At the very bottom, there's a spot that says We Love Developers, and there's a developer hub. I would love to see y'all in there. I talk about this stuff all the time, and we do really cool stuff with dev tools pretty much every day. So yeah, thank you.